Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege for me to be here today, joining like-minded conservatives like yourselves from around the country. As we continue to set a course set more than 30 years ago when Cpac first started. As a Californian, I take great pride in the fact that my governor and later my president, Ronald Reagan, was there when Cpac first started. And believe it or not, there is still a strong conservative base in California that reflects the values and principles that President Reagan articulated to our country. Limited government, low taxes, strong national defense, and respect for individual liberty and the right of every American to know their government is doing what the government is doing with their money. One of the Californians who continues to carry that legacy of conservatism is our next speaker. My congressman is California's 49th District, Darrel Issa. He is a ranking Republican on the House Oversight Committee. From that post, Congressman Issa serves as the chief government watchdog, protecting American tax dollars from waste, fraud, and abuse. If there's one thing this administration needs, it's a watchdog. For the past year, Congressman Issa has led numerous investigations into the waste of so-called stimulus money. He's exposed the countrywide sweetheart mortgage deals that went to Senators Chris Dodd and Ken Conrad. He's gone after Medicare fraud and the staggering waste of taxpayer money across the federal bureaucracy. He's been in the front lines against Acorn, exposing how left-wing activists, big labor, and the senior members of the Obama administration have worked hand in hand to launder federal money and to subvert the American electorate. Businessweek magazine has called Congressman Issa Timothy Geithner's tormentor because of his take-no-prisoners oversight of the government's interference in the financial markets. Others have called him a thorn in the side of the Democrat-controlled Congress. Last summer, Mother Jones profiled Congressman Issa as the one man that the Obama administration should be aware of. And I am very proud to have him as my congressman. I live in a neighborhood with Navy SEALs, retired Marine Corps officers, retired Navy officers. My own father is a retired Marine Corps officer. Oceanside, California is right there next to Camp Pendleton. It is a wonderful place to live, and I'll tell you what, I'm awful safe in that neighborhood, especially with the Navy SEAL. It's really, really nice to be there. But it is my pleasure to be introducing him today. And I just wanted to let everybody know, as you walked in today, maybe everybody saw this as you came in, and if you didn't get a copy, please try to track one down. It's a 60-page report that Mr. Issa and his committee released yesterday, exposing Acorn's illegal activities. Copies of the report are available. If you do not get one out here on the floor, make sure you go to republicans.oversight.house.gov and burn yourself a copy off the internet. It's got some really, really good reading material in it. So, without further ado, Congressman Issa is a successful businessman, entrepreneur, former Army captain, and now leader of the conservative resurgence that is really sparking up in Southern California. I have firsthand knowledge. Great things are happening. People are angry. They've gone from fearful to concerned to angry, and things are happening. I assure you, good stuff's coming out of California, and we will bring that state back, especially with the leadership of Congressman Darrel Issa. Please welcome him.
This feels like Reagan country. Tim, thank you very much. It's not often I get an introduction that doesn't read from my old bio, and it's really enjoyable not to talk about what I did in the past, but to talk about what we're doing here today. This is an exciting time for conservatives. Scarcely a year ago, there was questions about whether or not our ideas were out of favor, whether or not change was a change very different than the one that's being talked about here today. Today, however, we are watching a movement that promises us that, in fact, the American people are with us. They want the ideas that made this country great and strong. The experiment in liberty that George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison conceived of over 230 years ago has stood the test of time and today is in vogue like never before. Please feel free. Now, as Tim said, I have the honor of overseeing the Watchdog Committee of Congress. Now, some would say that the chairman of that committee oversees it, but the chairman of that committee is the party of the Speaker, the party of the President, and the party that in fact is not going to oversee itself. It's going to, well, basically apologize for this president, to spin for this president. So I'm the luckiest man in Washington. I'm lucky in a strange, strange way. I'm lucky that the presidential candidate I didn't vote for, in fact, got elected. Now, that kind of luck I can do without. And as Dick Cheney said to this group the other day, this is a one-term president we trust. But our standard that has sustained us for 230 years is a standard of checks and balances. And so I'm honored that at a time in which the party of the majority and the party of the president has ideas very different than those here, very different than the ideas that allowed us to survive and come out of the Depression, which was free market and private enterprise. The policies that allowed us to defeat the Soviet communism and to end it once and for all, which of course was strong national defense. The party and the principles that allowed us to be a shining light of liberty around the world, not in fact a collective for the greater good, willing to co-opt our ideas in order to fit in an ever more socialistic world. As a young kid growing up in a working class neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio, there we go, a little bit for Cleveland, please. You know, I always take something from Dan Lundgren, which is that he said when he was running for governor in California, they knew why the pioneers kept moving west. And by the way, it wasn't the great parks, the great museums, the great educational capabilities that drove them from Cleveland. It was just the weather. And those of you who've gone for a walk today on the snow-filled sidewalks here know there's a reason that this place is not always a warm swamp. And in the era of global warming, we've had 4 of 14 of the worst snowstorms since 1870. Perhaps when the hot air leaves this town, that's what happens. But the opportunities that I had, even though I left in my senior year of high school to go to the Army and didn't get a high school diploma and got a GED, the Army scholarship and the opportunity to graduate from college, be commissioned, learn skills that have worked for me throughout my business career and today are still being used here in Congress. All of that comes because in this country, all one needs is a belief in our principles and a willingness to work, and the opportunities have always been there and will always be there. Before you leave, I would ask you all to provide a few dollars to the Metro or the cabs here and go down to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and then go up to the nation's capital. Our founding fathers knew that in fact what would oversee our government was the House of the People, the Congress, a place where every 2 years we go back and we face you, the voters. We go back and ask you how we're doing. And we're so often told, quite rightfully, we should do better. And do better we will.